Most students will have one of their renders that looks a little bit like this one that I've got on the screen. Now this is the file that I've been working on and doing demos with. It's not complete, but yours will be complete because you've already submitted for assessment task 1. Now you will notice that I don't have a sky in this particular image, so just make sure that one of your renders you've cut out the sky. And then something else that you might like to do is I've taken a portion of the original photograph and just the bottom part here, and I have taken away all of the color. Now, if you have done the exercises for assessment task 2, you will know that you go into image, adjustments. I'll just select that one actually so that you can see how to do it. Image in the top menu, adjustments, hue saturation, and to get rid of all the color you just slide the little dial over to the left, and the saturation over to the left as well, and then you will have a completely black and white image. I do think that it's nice sometimes to improve the contrast, so you might want to go into image, adjustment, brightness, contrast, and just make sure that there's a nice sense of contrast, that it's not too washed out. That looks good, and you can bring back those details. So I've made mine black and white. What I want to also talk about is, if you have a look at my render that I've done, let's say that I submitted this for assessment and it was pretty much done. So when I had a look at your layers, some of you have named your layers layer 4, 3, 2, 1, and then you've got your path that has the same numbering system. It's a little hard to track your work if you don't name your layers in a logical format. So just be aware that it's sometimes better to give it a name so that you can differentiate between walls, roofs, trees, people, and so on. The other thing that you might want to do with your original PSD file is consolidate some of your layers. At the moment, you have very large PSD files. So what I'm going to do in my file is I'm just going to hide all my layers that are not part of this rendering section. I've got a wall highlight somewhere. When you're happy with all of the parts that are showing on the screen and you think, you know, that all looks very good, what you can do is have those items visible, and then you can consolidate certain layers. So for instance, if I want to consolidate all of the roof layers, some of these are named layer 2, 3, 4. I've got something named roof layer. They're all part of the roof. I select all of them by hitting Shift on the keyboard, right click and merge visible. And now all of those sort of smaller layers are consolidated into one layer. I can do the same thing with the wall highlights. I can just say, yes, those two can go together, shift click, right click and merge visible. So those are done. I've got some other walls here. So I've used lots of different layers to create the building render, which you've all been doing very well. Right click, merge visible, and just check that all the names are still useful. So I'll just have a look. I've got a wall highlight there, facade, that's a different one. So perhaps I'll consolidate these two layers here. So that's all merge visible, and that's actually wall 3. Or I could call it wall left side. just something brief, but it just helps you organize your layers. Consolidating layers also reduces your file size. So if you are experiencing problems with your file because it is too big, then this is a technique to help you manage that file a little easier. So what I'm going to do now is talk about your hero shot. So let me bring back some of these layers. Make sure that you delete any layers that you no longer need. So I don't need layer 1 anymore. So that might have been any of those layers with color blocking, you can delete. And I just want to find my windows. There we are. All right, so for me, if this is the work that I submitted, then I can now start creating what's called a hero shot. The elements that you put into your hero shot might be things like a background. So in one of the assessment task 2 options, exercises, you were required to make a background. So I have created a little semicircle background. Now, I encourage you to think about different ways of making the background. Don't use this sort of rounded shape or circular shape. The reason being is that 90% of you will submit something that looks like this. We want you to create individualized works. We want you to be unique and different. And if everybody is doing the same technique, then everyone will have the same poster, which is not ideal. You're all individual creative people. I am showing you the techniques, but the way you interpret it and how you make it different is entirely up to you. So to make our hero shot, we do need a contrasting background. So whatever you choose, that's going to be up to you, but some of the architecture academics have said, make sure that they don't use the flying birds and don't use these sort of circular sunsets. Okay, so I've got this example, but you think of something else. I'll show you some other examples that you might like to try and replicate too in the lecture. So for this one, I've got my patterned water, which I've adjusted the scale. I also added a hue saturation. So you can double click on your little hue saturation mask and you can change the color of the mask depending on what your palette is. I have specifically chosen pink because, as you can see in the windows, it's part of the color theme that I have chosen, and we will talk about color palettes in the lecture. So do make sure that you watch that lecture. And I do not have birds flying, and I do not have clouds in the background, those sort of cartoon-like clouds. So just be careful with the types of elements that you put into your hero shot. Something that is effective is to add some seating. Okay, so what I'm going to do is show you the different options for seating. I have just drawn some little seats. Okay, these were separate files that I drew using, I think, the brush tool or the pen tool. They're a little bit sketchy, but that's okay. I'm going to drag and drop them into my scene. I can also choose existing seating that I think might look effective. I've taken this design that I found online, cut out that image and started to place it in as part of my collage. I don't think that these work as well as the hand-drawn ones, so I would like you to think about using some hand-drawn elements. I think they look much nicer. So even though I am talking about this architectural example, the product design students should be taking a similar approach. So I have some seating in this particular example. I have placed a small tree in the background. You'll notice that it's just peeking through the back here. It might not be in the correct position, so I might need to adjust the position of that tree. I'm not sure if I want to keep that tree. I have added some additional trees into my scene, and I think that they look quite good. You might also want to adjust the opacity of some of your elements so that certain elements are a bit brighter or have more contrast and others fade away. You might also want to modify your plantings so that they don't look too repetitive or like you've rubber stamped them. So you might like to choose one of your trees as an example. I'll go with the left tree. I'm going to go Command T on the left tree, right click, and I am going to flip it along the horizontal, which means that I'm producing a mirror image of it. And I think that looks better because you don't want all of your elements to look exactly the same. So those are my trees. I'm going to add the people that I've created in one of my assessment task 2 exercises, and I've done a demonstration of this one already. So I've got black and white humans. I've got the lady in the hat, the man with the glasses, and I've got the person with the sneakers. Now, it's really important that you think about scale on some of these. So if your humans are not the correct scale, you'll need to adjust. So right click on your element, hold shift if you need to make your person thinner or wider, or use the original file. So I think that size looks better. Enter on the keyboard. And as you can see, there are several elements here that I have used to create my hero shot.